In today's story, Commander Susan Miller and her crew aboard the Starship Curiosity stumble upon a strange, ancient beacon, hidden deep in an unexplored sector of space. As they delve deeper into this forbidden region, they uncover a mystery that will challenge everything they thought they knew about the universe. What lies within this silent corner of the galaxy? And what secrets has humanity been hiding all this time? Strap in, because the discovery of a lifetime is about to begin. The Curiosity glided through the endless expanse of space, its sleek body cutting through the black void with an almost eerie silence. Commander Susan Miller sat at the helm, her eyes fixed on the strange object ahead. The ancient beacon pulsed gently in the infinite darkness, glowing with an otherworldly light that flickered like a distant star. Its surface was etched with hundreds of intricate symbols, alien markings from a time long past. The lines seemed to dance across the surface, shifting and rearranging themselves as if alive. Some of the languages were familiar, but many were beyond the ship's translation capabilities, leaving a chilling sense of unknowing that crept into Susan's mind. The beacon's glow was not constant but oscillated, ebbing and flowing as if it were breathing. The light wasn't bright or harsh, but it had an undeniable presence, like a living thing calling out across the ages. Its energy hummed softly, a deep, resonant vibration that seemed to penetrate the bones of everyone aboard the Curiosity. It was both beautiful and unsettling, pulling them toward it, as if it were beckoning them to understand. "How old is it?" Susan's voice broke the silence, calm but filled with an edge of curiosity that mirrored the nervousness growing inside her. Her fingers hovered over the controls, ready to make a course adjustment at a moment's notice. Paul Davis, the science officer, leaned forward from his station, tapping the holographic screen with precision as the data scrolled before him. His brow furrowed as he checked the readings. "At least 10,000 years old, Commander." "More than that," added Kate Brown, the communications specialist, her voice tinged with excitement. She scanned the surrounding space with an intense focus. "And it's not the only one. We've detected a whole network of them, stretching across this sector like an invisible boundary. The beacons are placed in a line that seems deliberate, almost like a warning." Susan frowned, her experience in the Galactic Council telling her that such an ancient artifact wasn't just a relic. This was something far more significant than a mere marker. But why here? Why hasn't anyone discovered it before? She mused aloud, her fingers lightly tapping the console. The implications of this discovery stirred a nervous energy within her. Kate's voice broke the silence, the sharpness of her words sending a chill through the air. "Because it's been deliberately avoided," she said, her expression one of confusion mixed with awe. "This region of space, it's classified as unexplored. There are no records. It's as if someone made sure it was erased from the charts." Susan's mind raced. She glanced at the holographic display, zooming in on the coordinates of the beacon. It was placed at the edge of the galaxy, near a sector where very few ships ventured. She could feel the weight of the discovery pressing down on her. This wasn't a random anomaly, it was a deliberate placement. Whoever had left these markers behind wanted to keep something hidden, and someone had gone through great lengths to ensure that no one ventured here. "Commander Miller," came the crackling voice of Admiral John Clark through the ship's intercom, pulling her from her thoughts. His voice was sharp with authority, but there was an underlying tension that Susan recognized. "What's your assessment of the situation?" Susan stood, her posture resolute as she looked out at the shimmering beacon, the glowing lights reflecting in her eyes. The questions swirling in her mind seemed to be building on top of one another. "Admiral, we've discovered a quarantine zone," she said, her voice steady but with an edge of realization. "There's an extensive network of ancient warning beacons surrounding a region containing 50 star systems. The message is clear: do not disturb the sleeping predators." Her words hung in the air, as if daring anyone to challenge their meaning. A tense silence followed her declaration, as the weight of the discovery settled over the crew like a dark cloud. The hum of the ship's engines and the software of the scanners were the only sounds that filled the room. After a moment, Admiral Clark's voice came through again, steady but filled with a sense of urgency. "Proceed with caution, Commander. You're authorized to investigate further, but maintain alert status. We cannot afford to make any mistakes." Susan's fingers hovered over the controls as she turned to her crew, their faces reflected in the soft glow of the consoles. She could feel the unease radiating from them, but there was also a shared sense of purpose. This wasn't just another mission. It was a discovery that could change everything. The curiosity was now on the edge of something far greater than they had anticipated, and whatever lay ahead, they would have to face it together. As the ship slowly drifted closer to the beacon, the crew continued their scans, carefully observing every fluctuation in the energy field surrounding the artifact. The beacon seemed to pulse in response to their presence, its light dimming and brightening in a rhythm that almost felt like a heartbeat. "Keep scanning," Susan ordered, her voice steady despite the growing tension. "There's more to this than we're seeing. Let's find out what it's trying to tell us." The curiosity moved deeper into the forbidden sector, and the crew's instruments began to pick up new readings, but none of them could prepare them for what they would discover next. The deeper they ventured, the more the universe seemed to open up around them, revealing a mystery that had been buried for millennia, just waiting to be uncovered. For days, the curiosity glided through the forbidden zone, its sensors probing the void for any signs of life. The region, vast and empty, offered only the cold silence of abandoned star systems. The planets they passed were barren, desolate landscapes, lifeless worlds orbiting distant stars, their once vibrant ecosystems long gone, frozen in time. Every system was a mirror of the last, devoid of the pulsing energy of civilizations. The darkness of space seemed even more oppressive here, as if the universe itself had conspired to erase this forgotten sector from memory. But then, on the fourth day of their journey, something changed. "Commander, we've picked up a signal," Kate Brown, the communications specialist, called out, her voice tinged with disbelief. Her eyes darted across her screens as her fingers danced across the controls. "Artificial structures on the third planet. It's inhabited, or at least, it was." The tension on the bridge shifted instantly. The crew gathered around the monitor, watching in awe as a new image appeared. A blue-green world, beautiful and serene, filled the screen. It was Earth, the planet that had once been the cradle of humanity. The surface was dotted with intricate geometric city patterns, some familiar in shape, others strange and unfamiliar. These cities, however, were not teeming with life, they were pristine, perfectly preserved, yet eerily silent. "There's something strange about this," Paul Davis muttered from his station, his eyes narrowing as he analyzed the data. His fingers hovered over his controls, trying to make sense of the readings. The power systems are running at minimal levels, barely enough to sustain basic functions. But the technology, it's advanced, possibly level 8 or 9, Commander. Susan Miller, her gaze fixed on the screen, felt a chill creep up her spine. The quiet beauty of the world before them seemed too perfect, too still. She knew something wasn't right. "Wait," she said, her voice low as realization dawned on her. "It's not just inhabited, it's suspended." She stared at the monitor, her breath catching. Billions of life signs, but all in a state of stasis. They're not awake. They're frozen in time. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of their implications. The planet was not simply devoid of life. It was a tomb, a crypt for an entire civilization, its people locked in an eternal slumber, their bodies held in suspended animation by an unseen force. This was no ordinary world. As the crew processed the magnitude of the discovery, Susan's thoughts raced. The warning beacons they had encountered earlier, the ones that had marked this region as off-limits, were they trying to prevent something from happening? Something connected to Earth? Was this sleep voluntary, or had something far more sinister occurred? Her mind reeled with questions as she examined the strange pattern of the cities, perfect, orderly, and silent. They looked almost abandoned. The long-standing question of why Earth had been hidden away, buried in this remote corner of the galaxy, was finally beginning to take form. "Commander," Kate's voice broke through her thoughts. "I've located some old satellite broadcasts. There's a repeating message, it's in a language I don't recognize, but it's being decoded by the ship's translation system." The message crackled across the speakers. The crew fell silent as they listened. "This is Earth, homeworld of humanity. Our species has entered the great sleep while our world heals. We will awaken when the time is right. This system is protected by automated defenses. Do not attempt to interfere with the sleeping population. Final warning, humanity is not to be disturbed." The consequences will be severe. The room was still as the final echo of the message faded away. Every crew member exchanged uneasy glances. The warnings, the sudden silence of the planet told a story far darker than any of them had anticipated. Earth, a once vibrant hub of life and activity, had been silenced, its people frozen in time by some kind of ancient technology. Susan's voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of everything they had just uncovered. "We found the sleeping predators." She immediately relayed the findings to Admiral Clark. "Prepare for full analysis. We need to know why Earth has been hidden away like this." The room hummed with a new energy, a sense of urgency. What had happened to Earth? Why had the humans chosen, or been forced, to enter this stasis? And who, or what, was guarding it? As the Curiosity drifted farther into orbit around the sleeping world, Susan's thoughts turned to the ancient warning beacons. They had been placed for a reason. Some ancient, unseen threat was clearly being kept at bay. The Council had warned them not to disturb the system, and now it was clear why. But was this a warning for the universe, or a warning just for the Galactic Council? The mysteries deepened, and as they prepared to probe further into Earth's secrets, one truth became clear: whatever the reasons for Earth's slumber, the time to find out was now. But even as they moved closer to the answers, they would be forced to confront forces far beyond their understanding. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson about the dangers of waking up ancient beings long hidden in the depths of space. The quiet hum of the Curiosity filled the bridge, a stark contrast to the unsettling silence that had gripped Susan and her crew. For days, they had orbited Earth, their ship nestled in the quiet shadows of the planet's vast, dormant atmosphere. The planet, once teeming with life, now felt like a sealed tomb, its secrets hidden beneath layers of forgotten history and technological marvels that no one had dared to disturb for millennia. As Susan stood before the command console, her eyes locked onto the planet below, she couldn't help but feel the weight of their discovery. Earth, once home to billions, was now shrouded in a thick veil of stasis, its population frozen in time, its future uncertain. The world lay beneath them, as still as a painting, its surface marked only by strange, geometric city patterns that once thrived with human life. Susan's breath caught in her throat. The automated defenses around the planet had been powerful, silent sentinels that had kept the world safe from external threats. But what if the defenses weren't just guarding the planet from outside dangers? What if they were designed to protect the slumbering humanity from something far darker, something lurking beyond the confines of their stasis? "We're not supposed to be here," Susan murmured to herself, the words barely audible over the hum of the ship. Her voice was thick with a sense of unease. They had discovered something monumental, something that went beyond the comprehension of the Galactic Council, or anyone for that matter. But their curiosity had led them here, and there was no turning back. "We've stumbled upon something far bigger than any of us." She turned toward her crew, her mind racing with the implications of what they had uncovered. The warning they had received was clear, yet as much as she wanted to heed it, Susan knew they couldn't leave without learning the full truth. "Prepare the probe," she ordered, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "We need to understand what's been hidden beneath Earth's surface." The crew scrambled into action, their faces a mix of excitement and apprehension as they prepared to launch the probe. It was their only way to gather information without disturbing the delicate balance that had kept humanity frozen in stasis for so long. As the probe was deployed from the Curiosity, the ship's sensors monitored its progress carefully, ensuring they didn't trigger any of the planet's automated defense systems. The probe descended, slicing through Earth's atmosphere with silent precision. From the vantage point of the Curiosity, the view of the planet's surface was breathtaking: vast oceans, sprawling continents, and massive, desolate cities that seemed untouched by time. But there was no sign of life, no movement, no sound. As the probe landed near one of the largest underground complexes, it sent back the first images of the planet's hidden world, a complex labyrinth of subterranean chambers, each one housing millions of dormant humans in stasis pods. The sleek, metallic walls of the chambers reflected the soft, artificial glow of the maintenance lights, casting an eerie, almost ghostly illumination across the scene. The probe's camera zoomed in on one of the pods, revealing a human figure, preserved in perfect stasis. The person's eyes were closed, their body perfectly still, as if caught in a timeless moment, frozen in a world where nothing moved. Then, a voice crackled through the ship's communication system, calm, detached, yet carrying the weight of millennia of history. The hologram flickered to life, a projection of a human figure wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. "Greetings," the hologram said, its voice smooth and synthesized, as though programmed for a time when it would be needed. "This is Earth. Humanity has entered the Great Sleep while our world heals. We will awaken when the time is right. This system is protected. Do not disturb." The message hung in the air like an insurmountable wall, blocking further access. The crew stared at the projection, stunned into silence. The warning was clear: interfere with the stasis, and there would be consequences. The automated defenses would activate, and the humans would awaken. "This is it," Susan whispered, her voice laced with awe and dread. "The Great Sleep, they've been preserving themselves for centuries." A shiver ran down her spine as she realized the depth of what they had uncovered. Earth, a planet once thought lost to history, had been preserved, its people locked in a perfect state of suspended animation, waiting for the day they would awaken, when the planet's ecosystems would recover and their world would heal. But what did it mean for them, the curious explorers who had stumbled upon this sacred place? What was Earth's true purpose, and why had it been hidden away from the galaxy for so long? Was this world meant to be a sanctuary, or was it a warning, a place where the past had been buried, waiting for something to resurface? "Commander," Kate said, her voice urgent. "The planet's defense systems are still operational. If we disturb this stasis, there's no telling what might happen. We could trigger a catastrophic event." Susan nodded slowly, her mind working through the possibilities. They had to respect the boundaries set by the ancient message, but at the same time, they couldn't leave without understanding what Earth had become. The temptation to uncover the full truth was too strong, and the consequences of ignoring it might be even greater. "We've already triggered something," Susan muttered, glancing over at the growing list of data from the probe. "The question is, what happens next?" The crew stood in tense silence, waiting for the inevitable. They had crossed a line, and whatever lay beyond it would define the future of humanity, both for the long-sleeping people of Earth, and for the crew of the Curiosity. As the probe continued to scan deeper into the bowels of the planet, the crew could only wonder what kind of legacy the humans on Earth had left behind. And, most importantly, what would happen if they woke the sleepers too soon? The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with a tense, unspoken fury as the delegates absorbed the news. The holographic screens flickered, casting eerie shadows on the cold, metallic walls of the vast chamber. The space was circular, with towering pillars rising from the floor, etched with symbols of ancient languages. At the center, the Council's most senior members, including Speaker Zerketh, gathered around a massive round table, their expressions a mix of shock, disbelief, and mounting anger. Zerketh's forearms twitched with barely controlled rage as his eyes locked on the central screen that displayed Earth's holographic image, a pristine planet surrounded by an invisible web of defenses. The message from Earth's automated systems had been clear: a species frozen in time, a slumbering world untouched for millennia, hidden in plain sight. The implications of this discovery were far-reaching, far beyond the Council's grasp. "The humans have completely withdrawn from Council space," Zerketh hissed, his voice cutting through the room. His purple scales glowed a deeper shade of violet, a sure sign of his growing agitation. "They must be punished. How dare they withdraw from us, from the protection of the Galactic Council? They are not worthy of such autonomy." The words echoed through the chamber, stirring murmurs of agreement from some of the delegates. But as the anger simmered, it became apparent that the Council's unity was starting to crack. The weight of the discovery, the hidden technology, the stasis technology that had preserved humanity for thousands of years, was too much to ignore. Trell, the youngest member of the Council, his pale blue skin tinged with uncertainty, spoke up quietly but firmly. "We need them more than we thought," he said, his voice steady despite the tension. "Their technology, their hidden advancements, this could change everything. If what we've seen is true, Earth possesses technology we've never even dreamed of. It could revolutionize our defenses, our fleets, even our way of life." Trell's words hung in the air, and for a moment, the room fell silent. The other members exchanged looks, their minds racing with the realization that Earth's secrets were more valuable than they had ever imagined. The power to manipulate time itself, to preserve an entire species in stasis, was a weapon beyond comprehension. A large Arcturon delegate, his insectoid features sharp and angular, raised his voice, his mandibles clicking with agitation. "They're a threat," he growled. "They've hidden themselves from us for thousands of years. They've been preparing something. This was never just a sleep, they've been waiting, building. What we've found on Earth could be more than just a weapon. They've kept this from us on purpose, and now they're waking up." The Arcturon's words caused a ripple of unease among the council members. They had underestimated Earth for centuries, dismissing humanity as a primitive species. But now, they saw a different truth, a truth that was far more dangerous. What if humanity's great sleep wasn't just about saving their world? What if it was part of a far more elaborate plan? "We've been blind," the Zlar diplomat murmured, his translucent skin flashing a mixture of yellow and orange as he processed the information. "A sleeping giant, waiting. Now we have to consider the consequences. We can't let this go unchallenged." Zerketh slammed his fist onto the table, his voice rising with fury. "The humans have crossed a line. Their arrogance, their defiance, it cannot be allowed to stand. If they wish to play at being equals, we will show them the price of their disobedience. The council has tolerated their insolence long enough." But Trell, still standing at the back of the room, spoke again, his voice hesitant but resolute. "What if they're not the threat we think they are? We don't know everything. There's still so much we haven't discovered about their technology. We've only seen the surface. What if their intentions aren't to conquer, but to protect themselves? What if this was all part of some greater plan?" Trell's words were met with skepticism, but they lingered in the minds of the council members. Could the humans really be that different from the other species they had encountered? Were they really capable of such foresight, of creating a defense so potent it could preserve an entire civilization for millennia? Or was there something darker at play? "We cannot afford to wait," Zerketh finally snapped, the frustration evident in his voice. "We will not let them dictate the terms of our future. We will reclaim what is ours, and we will do so with force, if necessary." But Trell's uncertainty remained, and he turned to the Zlar ambassador, hoping for some sort of agreement. "We need to know more. We can't make a decision based solely on fear. We've faced threats before, but this is different. We need to understand Earth's true intentions before we act." The Zlar ambassador hesitated, his skin pulsing with conflicting colors. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "but we cannot ignore the fact that they've been hiding their true strength from us for centuries. The question is, why now? Why reveal themselves to us at all?" As the council debated, the looming presence of Earth's hidden defenses and its advanced technology weighed heavily on them. They had always thought of humanity as an insignificant player in the grand scheme of galactic politics. But now, Earth had proven that it was a force to be reckoned with. What had once seemed like a sleeping, harmless world had awakened, and with it, the realization that they had misjudged humanity's true potential. "What happens now?" one of the delegates asked, breaking the silence that had descended over the room. Zerketh looked around at the faces of his fellow council members, a dark glint in his eyes. "We proceed," he said, his voice low and determined. "We will send a fleet to Earth. We will remind them of their place." But Trell's voice, though quieter, remained a haunting presence. "And what if they're not as easy to conquer as we think?" For the first time, the council began to question whether their assumptions about Earth were truly correct. But their course was set, and they had no intention of turning back now. As the chamber doors opened, the decision was made. The fate of Earth and the fate of the Galactic Council would be sealed by the actions they took in the coming days. The vast, shimmering expanse of space unfolded in front of the Council's fleet as they entered Earth's orbit. The massive warships, their sleek metallic bodies reflecting the cold light of distant stars, moved in formation, intimidating in both their size and weaponry. These were the vessels of the Galactic Council, armed with advanced technologies capable of crushing entire civilizations, and they had come to assert their dominance over Earth, over the sleeping species that had been marked as weak and primitive for centuries. But as their fleet drew closer, an unsettling silence filled the command decks. The vastness of the space around them seemed oddly still. There was something wrong, something hidden in the void that no amount of surveillance could reveal. Suddenly, the first flicker of light broke the stillness. Out of nowhere, hundreds of ships appeared, emerging like shadows from the darkness. The Council's sensors had failed to detect them, human ships, sleek and angular, blending into the backdrop of space with a stealth technology far beyond anything the Council had ever encountered. The ships, once invisible, now fully materialized, encircling the Council's fleet with chilling precision. Human ships, a voice echoed through the command room, laced with disbelief. Panic rippled through the Council officers. Their massive vessels, designed to dominate the galaxy, were now surrounded by a force they hadn't seen coming. These human ships, seemingly tiny in comparison, were everywhere, like a swarm of silent predators, fully armed and primed for battle. The bridge of the flagship Dominance fell silent. The sight before them was a nightmare they hadn't prepared for. Admiral Zorn, his 4 eyes wide with shock, turned to his communication officer. "How did we miss them?" he demanded, his voice tight with tension. "It's impossible," the officer muttered, scanning the screens. "They're invisible to our sensors. This is something new." Admiral Greg Martinez, his calm voice carrying the weight of years of preparation, came through the communication channel. His tone was unwavering, commanding. "You have 30 minutes to leave our space." The words rang out, striking with authority. It was a challenge. A declaration. The Council officers aboard the flagship stood frozen for a moment, trying to process the gravity of the situation. They had come to Earth with the expectation of forcing their will upon a defenseless species, only to be met by a display of military might they never imagined. "This must be a bluff," one of the officers murmured, his eyes scanning the array of human warships now blocking their escape. He was uncertain, hesitant, but his words betrayed his growing fear. "No," Admiral Martinez responded, his voice cutting through the uncertainty like a blade. "This is no bluff. Leave now, or face the consequences." Martinez's words were final, laden with the quiet intensity of someone who had long been underestimated and now stood in full command of his fate. The Council's fleet, so sure of their superiority, was now on the back foot, their commanders scrambling to understand the sudden turn of events. The human ships had materialized with calculated precision, cloaked in a technology that bent light and sound around them, rendering them invisible to the Council's vast array of surveillance equipment. They moved in perfect unison, their sleek hulls gliding through space with uncanny stealth. They were agile, far more so than the lumbering Council vessels, and every single ship in their fleet was armed with weapons designed to neutralize their enemies in a single blow. The Council officers, once confident in their overwhelming superiority, now found themselves caught in a web they couldn't escape. There was no question, the human fleet had been lying in wait, watching and preparing for this moment. On the Dominance, the crew worked furiously, trying to re-establish control, but the ship's systems failed to make any significant impact. The Council had made a grave mistake in underestimating the humans. Their ships were equipped with technology that the Council had never seen before, their military strategies unpredictable and aggressive. The Council officers, who once prided themselves on their superior intellect and power, now found themselves unable to outmaneuver the humans. "We can't hold them back," one of the senior officers muttered, frustration and fear creeping into his voice. "Our weapons aren't working at full capacity, and they're surrounding us." Admiral Zorn's face darkened. He had always believed that the Council's strength was unquestionable, that their numbers and firepower could conquer anything. But now, the truth was clear, humanity had been hiding its power, lying in wait for this moment of reckoning. The human ships closed in, their weapons locked onto the Council's vessels with deadly precision. They didn't need to fire yet. The mere presence of their fleet, their superior technology, and the silent but undeniable threat they posed were enough to force the Council to make a decision. "Retreat!" Zorn commanded, his voice filled with a mix of anger and disbelief. "We need to get out of here, now. Get us away from Earth. We're not prepared for this." The Council's ships, which had once been an unstoppable force, now scrambled to break free from the human encirclement. The massive vessels turned, their engines flaring as they attempted to retreat, but the human fleet was already there, blocking every escape route. The Council was trapped in Earth's orbit, their overwhelming numbers useless against the cunning, deadly tactics of a species they had once dismissed as insignificant. As the human ships moved closer, their sleek forms cutting through space with perfect coordination, the council officers realized the truth: humanity had become a force unlike any they had ever faced. Earth was no longer the primitive world they thought it to be. It was a new power in the galaxy, and its strength was undeniable. "We have to go," Zorn repeated, his voice growing frantic. "Now!" But it was too late. The human fleet, overwhelming in both strength and strategy, had proven that they were no longer the underdogs. They had risen, not just to defend their planet, but to take their place among the galaxy's greatest powers. The Council had been wrong about them. Admiral Martinez, standing firm as Earth's leader, issued one final command: "Earth has spoken. Leave our space. This is your last chance." The Council fleet, stunned and defeated, began to retreat. The once mighty vessels of the Galactic Council, which had believed Earth to be a weak, sleeping world, now found themselves retreating from the very space they had hoped to dominate. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the hum of the human ships as they moved into position, ensuring their enemies had learned the lesson that Earth would never again be their servant. Humanity had proven its strength. As the Council fleet fled Earth's orbit, Admiral Martinez stood tall, watching their retreating ships. The galaxy had just learned a hard truth: Earth was no longer a primitive species to be controlled, it was a new power to be reckoned with. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. And Earth, now free, was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Earth is no longer their servant. "We are their equals," Martinez said, his voice steady and resolute. And as the human fleet prepared for the next phase of their journey, the universe watched in silence, knowing that humanity had finally awakened, and it was stronger than ever. Thank you for joining us on this thrilling journey through the stars at HFY Sci-Fi Love and War Story. If you enjoyed today's adventure, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think will happen next in the story? Will humanity rise or fall under the weight of the galaxy's mysteries? Your insights and ideas help us create even better content for you. Stay tuned for more thrilling episodes, where love, war, and humanity's fight for survival will continue to unfold. Until next time, remember, in a galaxy full of unknowns, it's humanity's strength that will always light the way. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss a new chapter in the saga of HFY Sci-Fi Love and War Story. Until we meet again in the vastness of space, keep your eyes on the stars and your heart full of hope.